Okay guys, I'm back, and today I'm going to talk about connections. The first thing I want to say about connections is that it's a very loosely used term. It can mean a totally different thing depending on who you're talking to. So basically I'm going to break it down into simple terms that are black and white so there's no confusion. Okay, let's talk about the ping bars. That's the little thing next to your name on the leaderboard, the 4 bar, 3 bar, 2 bar, whatever. What those are representations of your latency. Ping is a commonly used game term. It's basically just a vocabulary word. It means latency. So basically when you have host, let's say you have host in Modern Warfare 2, you're going to have practically no latency. And other people in the lobby who have a 4 bar, they're going to have roughly anywhere from 30 to probably 75 milliseconds of latency. And you get people on the 3 bar, they're going to have up to around 150 milliseconds of latency. And people on a 2 bar, they might have anywhere from 250 to 500 millisecond latency. So there's a big difference there. And basically what the latency is, whenever you pull your trigger on your gun and it goes off, that's the time between a shot fired that's aimed at the enemy and the time it takes for that shot to register a hit marker. That's how you can shoot, and there's a delay between when the bullet actually hits them. I know pretty much anyone who's watching this video probably realized that by now. Now, what causes the latency? The latency is typically caused by location. Say, if you live on the East Coast and you're playing with someone on the West Coast, you're going to have a 3 bar at maximum. That's just the way it is. There's a lot of miles in between, and it takes time for the data to go from each coast across all those thousands of miles, so it's going to put delay. Another thing that can make delay, or latency, is a crappy router setup. If you're playing on wireless internet with an ancient router, it can be putting a lot of delay in the data flow. You can have 100 milliseconds of latency right there in your house. And all you got to do to bypass that is get a decent modem and play directly off of it with an Ethernet cable. Ethernet's going to be practically instant, whereas wireless can be pretty funky sometimes. One of the biggest misconceptions about connection is that when you buy this 30, 50, 70 megabyte internet, it's going to give you a godlike connection, which isn't true. And I'm going to explain that. What those numbers mean, they are your maximum bandwidth. The one, like when you buy 50 meg internet, they're talking about your download bandwidth. They don't even mention the upload, but I can tell you right now, when I had 10 meg internet and I have 50 now, it's exactly the same latency. All that is your maximum bandwidth, which is basically just how much flow you can have of data at one time. It doesn't really affect the time it takes between the data to go back and forth across the country. What those higher speed internets can actually do to help you, though, is, let's say somebody's in your living room watching Netflix and it's buffering the video. What that can do is actually hit the bandwidth cap and slow down, or not slow down, but like bog down your internet. And say you have host. What this does to everyone else in the lobby, this is whenever you look at the leaderboard and everybody's dropping down to a red bar and the host still has a 4. It's because their internet is hitting its bandwidth cap. Likely because someone's buffering a video, they're downloading a video, or they're streaming. Now having those higher speed internets, they can give you more bandwidth so that you can stream, people can watch video, people can play on their phone, do all that stuff at the same time that you're playing without maxing out and hitting your bandwidth cap and then basically bogging down the connections in the game. Whenever you see that happening, it's because of someone's bad internet hitting its bandwidth cap. It's not because they have more latency. That's how they end up getting host, because the game just checks for latency. It does not do a load test to see how much bandwidth they can handle. It just checks for latency and it gives the host to the person with the lowest average latency to everyone in the lobby. It's pretty common for it to find someone with low latency with very low bandwidth internet, and then it bogs down mid-game. It's very frustrating, but that's just the way it is. Now when you see one guy in the lobby who just keeps randomly dropping down to a red bar, that's because he doesn't have host, but he's hitting his bandwidth cap. It can also be caused by someone being very, very far away. Like, say, people in Europe. If you're playing with a European guy, I don't know why he's even in a lobby with an American host, or even vice versa. The person that's going to be across the globe is going to have a lot of latency, and they're only going to have a 1 or a 2 bar. There's nothing that can be done about that because it's just so much distance. There's so much latency there. Another common misconception is that having an open NAT type or NAT type is going to give you a better connection, and playing on moderate is going to make it worse. This is completely false. It has no effect on your latency or connection. The way internet actually works is everything goes through a certain number of ports, and a lot of people in their home, well, most people are using some sort of firewall. They don't even know about it. But basically what it does is it restricts data flow through certain ports to make your personal internet a lot harder to hack into. The way Xbox Live works is it needs certain ports to be open rather than blocked so that you can play with everyone. If those ports aren't open, you're going to be on a moderate or strict NAT type. And what that does is basically just make you only able to play with certain people, and it doesn't affect the latency. What it does do latency wise is it doesn't allow you to play with the players who have the best connection or the lowest latency to you, because you're only allowed to search these certain other players because you're playing on this moderate or strict NAT type. So basically you want your NAT type to be open so that you can find the lobbies where the host has the lowest ping to you. Sometimes you can find good ones on moderate or strict NAT type, but there's a lot less people to search, so it's not very common that it's going to be better than if it's open. Basically, if you are stuck on a moderate or strict NAT type, you can look up on YouTube on how to forward the certain ports that you need forwarded and assign your Xbox an IP address. I'm not going to get into it too deep. You can also set up a DMZ host, but those are ways that you can set your NAT type to open to play with a bigger player base. The problem that a lot of people are having nowadays on Modern Warfare 2 is they're having trouble finding a good host with a low ping to them, with low latency to them. So they keep getting in these lobbies and they keep getting a 3 bar. They get a 3 bar over and over and over again. But the truth is, Modern Warfare 2 is really old. There's not all that many people still playing it compared to when it was new, and you used to be able to find a 4 bar with a different host all the time. Nowadays, if you want to get a 4 bar, you need to be playing with someone basically very close to you, or you need to have host. That's just the way it is. You can expect to be on a 3 bar almost every game unless you're playing with people near you or you have host. There's nothing you can do about it. The likelihood of finding people near you to play with when you're in the pre-game matchmaking lobby is extremely low, because normally, especially in Ground War, which is what a lot of people who are on Modern Warfare 2 only play, people in every lobby are going to be from all over the country, even often out of the country. So the likelihood of a person being right next to you giving you a 4 bar because they got a host with a low latency to you is very low, and that's the way it is. It sucks, but that's what we have to deal with. The only way that you can really consistently damn near guarantee that you get host most of the time is if you get a bunch of local friends. I'm talking about like in the same town as you, to all play with you at the same time. Since you're all right there with low latency to each other, it's very likely that one of you will have host, and then every one of your buddies is going to have a 4 bar. The overall situation of the story here is basically the player base is low. You're never going to have consistent great connections again in Modern Warfare 2. It's just not going to happen. Everyone's dealing with it. Complaining about it is kind of pointless. But basically, you just want to make sure that your internet in your house, your local network, isn't giving you any latency. I recommend running an Ethernet cable directly to your modem. That's as fast as you can make your home internet, or that's the lowest you can set your home internet latency for you personally. And do what you need to do to make sure your ports are open. You're playing on an open NAT so you can search for the most lobbies, and sometimes you're going to get hosts, sometimes you're not. Expect to be on a 3-bar. That's the way it is. And that's about it.
Target down. Securing B.
Predator missile ready for launch. Repeat. Predator missile.
Friendly Predator missile incoming. Securing B. Friendly Harriers inbound.
That's how it's done. Nice job, Rangers.